In the heart of a remote forest, there stood an old gas station, its rusty sign barely visible through the thick foliage. As night descended, the station took on an ominous air, its surroundings swallowed by darkness. Mia, a weary traveler low on fuel, pulled in, her instincts warning her of the eerie atmosphere. Inside, the air was stale, and the silence was deafening. Mia's footsteps echoed as she approached the counter, where a gaunt figure stood, its eyes hollow and vacant. Unease gripped Mia as she handed over her money, feeling as though the cashier's gaze pierced her soul. As Mia turned to leave, a voice whispered from the shadows, chilling her to the bone. "You shouldn't be here," it hissed, sending shivers down her spine. With trembling hands, Mia fumbled for her keys, desperate to escape the sinister presence lurking in the darkness. In the dead of night, beneath a sky cloaked in darkness, a lone car rumbled down the desolate highway. Sarah, the driver, glanced nervously at her dwindling fuel gauge, her heart pounding with each passing mile. With no signs of civilization in sight, she finally spotted the flickering lights of a gas station in the distance. Relief flooded Sarah as she pulled into the station, the eerie glow casting long shadows across the deserted pumps. As she stepped out of her car, a chill ran down her spine, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Inside the station, Sarah found herself greeted by a somber-looking attendant. His eyes held a vacant stare, sending shivers down her spine. Ignoring her unease, Sarah handed over her credit card, only to be met with a strange warning from the attendant. "Be careful out there," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the fluorescent lights. "This place has a way of changing people." Brushing off the cryptic message, Sarah hurried back to her car, eager to leave the eerie gas station behind. But as she drove away, a sense of dread settled in her chest, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, Sarah realized she was lost. The road seemed to twist and turn in impossible ways, leading her deeper into the darkness. Panic rising, she tried to turn back, but the landscape had shifted, trapping her in a maze of unfamiliar roads. Hours passed, but Sarah couldn't find her way out. Every turn only led her further into the unknown, and with each passing moment, the darkness seemed to grow thicker, more suffocating. Just when she thought she couldn't bear it any longer, Sarah spotted the gas station up ahead. Desperate for help, she pulled in, only to find it eerily deserted. The lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows across the empty pumps. As Sarah stepped out of her car, a voice echoed through the silence, sending shivers down her spine. "Welcome back," it whispered, and Sarah realized with horror that she was trapped in a never-ending nightmare, doomed to wander the lost highway for all eternity. In the heart of Blackwood County, nestled among towering pines and winding roads, lay a gas station long forgotten by time. Its weathered exterior bore the scars of years gone by, while its flickering neon sign served as a beacon to lost travelers in the dead of night. But beneath its seemingly ordinary facade lurked a darkness that no amount of neon light could dispel. It was a moonless night when Jake, a weary traveler, stumbled upon the Blackwood gas station. His car sputtered to a halt, the fuel gauge hovering dangerously close to empty. Relieved to have found shelter from the looming darkness, Jake stepped out into the cool night air, the gravel crunching beneath his boots. As Jake approached the station, an unsettling feeling washed over him. The air was thick with an otherworldly presence, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. Ignoring his instincts, Jake pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The interior of the gas station was dimly lit, the fluorescent lights casting long shadows across the linoleum floor. Behind the counter stood a figure cloaked in darkness, its features obscured by the flickering light. Jake hesitated for a moment before approaching, the weight of the eerie atmosphere pressing down on him like a leaden blanket. "Can I help you?" the figure asked, its voice hollow and devoid of emotion. Jake nodded, his throat dry as he handed over his credit card. As the figure processed the transaction, Jake's gaze wandered to the shelves lining the walls, each one stocked with dusty cans and faded packages. With a final glance at the figure behind the counter, Jake turned to leave, eager to put the gas station behind him. But as he reached for the door handle, a voice spoke out from the darkness. "Leaving so soon?" it asked, sending a chill down Jake's spine. He turned to see the figure stepping out from behind the counter, its features still obscured by the shadows. Panic rising in his chest, Jake fumbled for the door, his heart pounding in his ears. As Jake stepped outside, he was greeted by a sight that sent a shiver down his spine. The gas station, once dimly lit and deserted, was now bathed in an eerie blue light. The air hummed with an otherworldly energy, and Jake felt as though he had stepped into another dimension. With a sense of unease gnawing at his insides, Jake hurried to his car and climbed inside. But as he turned the key in the ignition, nothing happened. The car remained silent, as if refusing to obey his commands. Panic rising, Jake glanced around frantically, his eyes landing on the gas pumps just a few yards away. With no other options left, he stepped out of the car and approached the pumps, praying for a miracle. But as he reached out to grab the nozzle, a voice echoed in his mind, chilling him to the bone. "You shouldn't be here," it whispered, the words sending a jolt of fear coursing through Jake's veins. He stumbled backwards, his heart racing as he realized the true horror of his situation. Trapped in a gas station that defied all logic, with no hope of escape. Hours passed, each one stretching into eternity as Jake wandered the empty aisles of the gas station, his mind consumed by fear and despair. But no matter how far he walked, how loudly he screamed, there was no one to hear him, no one to save him from the nightmare that had become his reality. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Jake knew that he would never leave the Blackwood gas station alive. For it was a place cursed by darkness, a place where lost souls wandered for all eternity, trapped in a never-ending cycle of fear and despair. And Jake was just the latest victim to fall prey to its sinister embrace.